I'd like to talk about ALS, which is motor neuron disease, and how I met Paul McCartney. 2011, I ran the New York Marathon for ALS, motor neuron. One of my best friends lost his father to motor neuron. I also lost a football coach back in the UK. And I think it's a very close thing to a lot of people now. It's a more known thing and people are connected to it. It seems like it occurs a lot in sports personalities, people that have had a long career in sports of physical contact. Fast forward, we ran the New York Marathon in 2011. I started a music career and spent time in the US. Fast forward to 2016. My best friend who lost his father to motor neuron said, we should go do the half marathon. I said, half is better than the full. I don't know if I can do a full marathon again, so we did the half marathon. I decided to take my guitar with me and play some shows, try book some shows in New York where the half marathon was being held. We had our vests and the charity that we were donating to. Before I left Scotland for the trip, I recently was given a guitar by Gibson Guitars. There was a lot of things that happened 2015, 2016, my spiritual awareness, and it was like a 360 view. I kept seeing numbers constantly and I feel like I was opening up to something else. But there was one thing about 2016 and 2015 onwards, I started to take leaps, as in just take chances. If I do this, I believe that this is going to happen next. So we arrive in New York, managed to book some shows. One of those shows in particular was called Arlene's Grocery. For those in New York that know where Arlene's grocery store is, great venue. My friend, his cousin and her husband live in New York, and there was a plan to go for dinner of the night that I was playing Arlene's Grocery. I had a friend from Nashville, and he was going to fly from Nashville to New York to open up the show for me. And talk about timing and divine intervention. A few hours before the show, I got a text and a call from my friend to say that his flight was delayed or cancelled. I can't remember, it was a long time ago. So he couldn't make it in time to open up for the show. By this point, I had already said no to go to dinner with my best friend, his cousin, and her husband and some friends, because I had to prepare to be at the show. So after receiving the call from my friend in Nashville that he couldn't make the show, I decided to reach out to my friends and say, I can now join you for dinner. Arrive at the restaurant, it was a little low-lit Mexican. I guess it was on the Lower East Side. I think someone correct me from New York, that may be wrong. It was Tijuana something. It was called Tijuana, but it was a really good Mexican. So I walk in, I have my guitar. It's March time, it's still cold. They are at a table of 6, and I am the 7th person, so we have to move table. So we're in the center of the room, and as I said, it's very low lit, so no one can really see too much. It's a very laid back environment. You're like, Sean, get to the point. Okay. I sit down, I have my guitar over in the cloakroom with my jacket. Everyone's talking, mingling, doing all the thing. And my friend, his cousin's best friend, was facing me. We're just eating some appetizers and doing our thing. And the next thing, she looks at me and she just freezes. Okay, she froze. And I looked at her, I only just met her, and I was like, is everything okay? And she's like, Paul McCartney's right behind you. Sir Paul McCartney. So of course, I'm not the type of person to like react, turn around like, oh, hi Paul. And being a musician, I think you have that, living in Nashville, you have a really reserved, you have an appreciation for musicianship, even famous people. There's not a lot of paparazzi in Nashville. Everyone is allowed to live their piece. So my best friend, being a fan of my music and a big supporter, he said, I know what you're like. You better say something. And I'm like, just relax, don't cause a scene, because he'll just get up and he'll leave. It's Sir Paul McCartney from the Beatles, like the biggest band ever, or the most well-known band. So he's like, just say something. I'm like, oh, I can't even walk up to a girl in a bar. I'm like, right, okay. I had to leave to do the sound check. I was going to leave them at dinner. I would meet them at the show. So I went and grabbed my guitar and my jacket, and I thought, Sean, you know what? You came all this way. Just say hello. So I intentionally walked the long way with my guitar that I just got before I got on this trip. Took a deep breath, and he was at a booth. He was side on to me, so pretty much I had my back to him and he was side on. And I sat my guitar down and I said, I'm really sorry to interrupt your dinner. And he was still chewing on his food, and he scooted over and he says, he's still chewing. He's like, no, that's fine. He's like, where are you from? I said, from the West Coast in Scotland. He's like, I can hear your accent very clearly. I lived there for a long time. And in my head, I'm like, duh, obviously, I remember the songs that you'd written, well, on the Isle of Mull. So he intervened and he says, he's like, why are you in New York? And I said, well, me and my friend are running the half marathon for ALS, for motor neuron. It's been a big part of our lives, and we've done a bunch of events. I'm also playing some shows here. I'm a musician, and then I'm playing at Arlene's Grocery tonight, and then I'm heading to Nashville after this. He said, that's really great, like, I hope everything goes well. And I said, thanks very much. And I thought, it's a really touchy subject to ask someone really famous to sign an instrument, or I don't know, even just a poster or a t-shirt because they want to sell it online. But I was very genuine about it. Maybe he could understand that I was a traveling musician trying to make it work just the same as it was for him a long time ago. So I said, would you sign my guitar for me? And he's like, of course I will. So we pulled it out and he's like, oh, it's a shiny new guitar. I was like, yeah, I just got it for this trip. And he said, let's not sign it there, let's sign it here. And by this point, I think I'm just talking to him like he's a regular guy, and he was one of the nicest people that I've ever met. And he said, I really hope everything goes well for you. And I said, I'm playing a show tonight and then heading down to Nashville. I never asked for a photograph. My friend's got a picture from behind. I shook his hand and I said, thanks for your time. And he said, take care, and I walked out. And I said goodbye to my friends, I'll meet you at the show. And I walked 10, 15 steps outside of the restaurant. And I stopped and looked up and I said, I just met Paul McCartney. And it wasn't too overwhelming, but he was such a regular guy. And I don't know whether it was a connection with Scotland, the UK, being a travelling musician, trying to make it work for yourself. Yeah, back in 2016, the reason for someone losing someone through ALS motor neuron to then act in something of purpose. And there's a personal reason for me to do it too. That you take leaps, you take chances, and you just know that you're on a path to something. You don't know where it is. You're longing for something that you don't know what it is. But the chances for my friend to not make it to the gig in New York meant that I could go to the restaurant, which meant I met Paul McCartney. And I say to myself today, if I ever met him again, I believe that he would remember me for specific reasons, whether that was from the West Coast and he recognised my accent. But it was a cool story, and this is a guitar that I've used on a lot of my own music. I'll have it for the rest of my life. It's not something I'll ever sell. But yeah, from ALS, motor neuron, to meeting Paul McCartney. And there's some other things I want to tell you about that. So also don't forget that things happen. Amazing things happen. You will still go on to live a life. You will still go on to maybe achieve bigger things you think than meeting Paul McCartney, but things like that happen when you, not just like taking chances and taking leaps, when you are in alignment with no fear that this just feels right to me and I want to go do this, not knowing how it's going to work out, and things happen.